joining us, Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine. Senator, thanks for joining us.
You bet, Brett. Glad to be with you.
How do you see everything right now with the House moving forward, and paint the picture for us from your view?
Brett, as you know, the Senate acted about 2 months ago on this aid package that was basically three elements. It was defense aid to Israel, well, maybe four elements: defense aid to Israel, defense aid to Ukraine, humanitarian aid to Ukraine and Gaza, and then some Indo-Pacific defense aid. We put those four elements into one bill, sent it to the House. It looks like what the House is going to do, and I'm really excited that they are now taking this up, because we've been really urging them to, is they're going to take them up as four different bills. There's going to be an Israel defense bill, a Ukraine bill that will have Ukraine both defense and humanitarian aid, and an Indo-Pacific bill. And then the House is going to do a fourth bill that will have things like TikTok, sanctions against Iran, some matters that were not in the original Senate bill. They're going to vote on those beginning on Saturday. I think you will see the House possibly embrace all four of these bills, and by rule, they will then combine them into one. We'll come back next week in the Senate and work to get it to President Biden's desk. And I'm feeling optimistic.
President Biden's optimistic as well. I mean, he's got this statement out saying he strongly supports this package. The House must pass the package this week. The Senate should quickly follow. I'll sign it into law immediately to send a message to the world. We will stand with our friends, and we don't let Iran or Russia succeed. Senator Sanders had a different thought. Take a listen.
The Democratic base wants to stop funding for Netanyahu's war machine. So if your question is it going to hurt the president unless he turns this around? Yeah, it will.
You think it hurts the president politically?
You know, Brett, I'm not sure about when Senator Sanders made that statement, but I suspect he made it before the Iranian attack on Israel, where they fired, drones and missiles in the hundreds at Israel. And
yeah, it was April 2nd.
The delicate challenge right now is a delicate one. We want to provide Israel with the capacity to defend itself against those who would annihilate it, and that's Hamas, and that is Hezbollah, and that's Iran, and that's militias in Iraq and Syria. At the same time, we also want to do what we can to minimize civilian suffering, and that's why this bill, when we sent it out of the Senate, it had significant humanitarian aid for Gaza as well. You also see that Israel has reopened the Erez border crossing. Much more humanitarian aid has been coming into Gaza. We've been pushing on that for months. The pace hasn't made us happy, but at least now it's picking up, in the World Food Program under the leadership of Cindy McCain noticed this yesterday. So we're trying to find this balance, but I suspect what you will see is what you saw when the Senate acted on this bill in February. Very strong support from the Democratic side. We were 48-3 for this bill in February. The Republicans were 22-27. I would suspect we might even get more Republican votes when this bill comes back to the Senate.
What do you make of all these protests around the country? When you see these images, they seem to be coordinated. I can't pin that down to where they're coordinated by or who. There were even protests outside your hotel. I mean, what do you think? What do you think about it, and how do you read it?
Brett, the way it's a heartbreaking situation, and people have really strong emotions about it. Now, what I don't like is when people take out their emotions, against one another for something that's happening thousands of miles away. But it is a very emotional thing, particularly for anybody who has family in the region. So I spent a lot of time talking to hostage families, and because obviously we have hostages who are Americans, and one has a connection to Richmond. They're heartbroken. And then I know people who are Palestinian and have family on the West Bank or family in Gaza that are not Hamas members and that are suffering. And so I think when you have a situation that has this level of emotion to it, then there's going to be challenges and protests. I don't know about them being organized, but I just think it's a heartbreaking situation, and that's why we're doing what we can to find a path toward de-escalation. But we do have to do the twin jobs of both defending Israel from those who would annihilate it, but also doing what we can to minimize civilian suffering.
Well, Senator Kaine, we appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Always welcome back on Special Report.